Good afternoon again. Hello, I'm Jenny Medlin, an education and outreach specialist here with your Missouri Loggers. It's a pleasure to be meeting with you. Thanks for joining me virtually today to learn about new hire orientation. Welcome to Loggers. Now let's talk about what we are, what we provide to you. Whether you are a new hire yourself, newly employed with a political subdivision who is covered by loggers, congratulations and welcome to membership in our system. Keep in mind, while we work for your employer, we work for each one of you. You have a personal account with us. We're always happy to review your membership and your opportunities as you continue in your careers. You may also be a professional who's responsible for supervising or onboarding employees. So thank you for being here today. This is a great webinar that reviews kind of an overall general overlook of what Loggers is and how it's going to best serve you and your employees in the future. Without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Throughout today's presentation, if you have questions, please feel free to type that into the Q&A or the chat feature. We do have a smaller group as well, so if you prefer to ask aloud, raise your hand using the mouse tool to do so, and I'll be happy to unmute you to allow you to ask aloud if you're comfortable and have that conversation. So welcome again to Loggers. And talking about, pardon me, let's see if I can get back to the beginning here. What Loggers is, we are a defined benefit plan. I apologize. Let me get this going one more time. Loggers is your local government employee retirement system established over 50 years ago by like-minded individuals who saw a need to ensure that those of us who devote our lives or careers to public service, they wanted to be able to provide security, not only for the here and now and the wages that you get paid through the employer today, but in the form of a future guaranteed benefit. So Loggers was developed with retirement in mind, and it was created as a defined benefit retirement plan. Loggers will be part of your future financial picture. So right now, as you're working, you're earning wages to help with your livelihood, to afford gas, to afford vacations, to afford daycare, your children's school necessities and growing needs, your own personal needs and wants. But think about it. Is your goal in mind to work for the rest of your careers or for the rest of your lives rather? No, many of us, we won't be able to. Our bodies, as we continue to age, aren't going to be in the best kept ability to do so, but also we don't want to. In society today, we've grown to the luxury where you can retire, you can enjoy and be grateful for the work that you've done. But how are you going to support yourself in retirement? Are you going to work odd and end jobs, work part-time? Are you going to have to work full-time? Well, again, those that developed Loggers didn't want for you to have to continue to working. They want for you to be able to retire after a career devoted to public service and live a comfortable lifestyle and one that's secure. So when you're thinking about your future financial income, always keep in mind Loggers, so long as you're vested, will be part of that. We're going to provide support to you. But in the financial industry, you hear oftentimes about this three-legged stool. While Loggers will be part of your future financial picture, there are other components to your finances to be mindful of, including Social Security. Most members of Loggers also contribute to Social Security. There are some, so ask yourself if this applies to you, who do not contribute to Social Security. This is primarily if law enforcement, fire departments, but some political subdivisions opt out of Social Security. So please check with your employer if you're uncertain. Another good place to look is on your paycheck. When you review your pay stub, you should see if you contribute to Social Security that there are being withholdings from your pay. And then the third leg of this financial stool for your future is what's known as personal savings. Loggers is going to be a defined benefit plan. Many, if not all of you here today, do not pay anything for this, but we'll talk more about that in the future. Your personal savings, though, this is going to be in the form of perhaps a defined contribution account. Maybe you have a 401k from a private employer that you previously worked for, or currently you have a 457 plan, a 401a. You've gone out and set up your own traditional IRA. Those are great tools for personal savings. Personal savings can also look like a side business. Maybe you have rentals that you have, and you'll be earning additional income for your future in that way. In my area where I grew up, land is a form of personal savings. They buy up the land for farming, both crop and livestock. So personal savings is going to look very different to each and every one of us. But keep in mind, when you're thinking of your future life after you stop having to work full time, what sources of income will you have? And that's where Loggers was developed, because we want to be a fundamental benefit payable to you in your future life. Being a defined benefit plan, we're a little unique from other types of accounts like those 401ks, IRAs, 457s that we're more commonly educated on. A defined benefit plan is calculated using a formula, and it's developed to pay you, a retiree from Loggers, a monthly benefit for the rest of your life. So it grants security. In retirement, those other types of accounts like a 401k and IRA, those are ones we work hard to accrue and amass a balance during our working careers. When we retire, we take distributions, and it is common in today's society for Americans to deplete that account balance and still outlive it. So then folks are struggling to make ends meet. With Loggers, it is a guaranteed benefit payable to you the first business day of every month for as long as you shall live. Our eldest, or rather our longest standing retiree, she's been retired for over 54 years in retirement, still receives this monthly benefit every month she continues to live. So imagine, the longer you live in retirement, the more Loggers is going to pay you out. You're not dwindling in account balance, instead you're growing in value. And it's designed to reflect your working career. You control it just by showing up to work for your Loggers covered employer. Remember, a defined benefit plan, it's one that's based upon a formula, versus those defined contribution plans. Those are ones that are based upon an account balance. Remember, those DC plans, they can dwindle and deplete, but a DB plan like your Loggers, it's guaranteed to you monthly for the rest of your life. Let's learn what that formula is. Being a defined benefit plan, Loggers has this formula using 3 factors to calculate your benefits when you go to retire from our system. The first is what's known as the benefit multiplier. That is set based upon your employer's election of a benefit program. So upon hire, you may have received a handout or a member handbook, or perhaps your employer simply told you, hey, we're a member of Loggers. You're going to be guaranteed benefits in the future so long as you get vested. And we're at the L1, or we're at the L7. Maybe you're at the L12 or L6 or the L3 benefit program. It's okay not to know what that means, but that is an indicator that your employer has elected a benefit program and it aligns with a benefit multiplier. The L1 is a 1%, the L3 is a 1.25%, L7 a 1.5%, L12 a 1.75%, and the L6 is this 2%. The second and third factors of the equation that you see here on the screen, those are ones that us as individuals have greater control over throughout our lives. Certainly, how much you make as you continue in your career, that's going to help your future retirement from Loggers. Right now, being a new hire, if you expect to work more than 5 years at least with your employer, what you're earning at this time doesn't have a huge impact on your future benefit. Because when we go to calculate your benefit, we're going to look within the last 10 years for the elected 3 or 5 year range. Don't worry, we'll talk a little bit more in detail on that. But keep in mind, you as a new hire, starting out maybe at the bottom of your pay tier, it's okay. You're going to continue working and growing in your career. Go for those opportunities to earn greater revenue or earn greater earnings. That will help boost your future guaranteed benefit in retirement. And then the third factor, again, one that we have more control over as individuals, is how long we work for a loggers covered employer. Every month you work full time, you're receiving a month of credit in our system. And every month of credit helps to boost your benefit some. When you go to retire, we do refer to your credit as years of service, but rest assured, every month work is a month of credit earned. So if you work 17 years and 4 months, it just gets converted to the 17.333 of a year. Okay. Remember, if you have questions about anything I'm discussing throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to use that chat or Q&A feature. Let's break down the benefit a little bit more. First, what makes up your benefit? Through loggers, we are developed with retirement in mind. And so again, we use that formula. When you go to retire from our system, we're going to look for those three factors. The benefit multiplier, remember, it's the first factor of your formula or of your equation used to calculate your benefits. This again is an election per employer. You may not be aware, loggers covers over 840 different employers statewide in Missouri alone. We do not cover any entity outside of the state of Missouri. Each of those 840 different employers gets to choose their benefit program to best suit their workforce. Our multipliers, or the benefit programs, as mentioned earlier, are known as L1, L3, L7, L12, L6. These are what are considered your life multipliers. The L1 benefit program results in a 1% multiplier. So if you're thinking about your future and imagine working 20 years of service with an employer at the L1, we take your years of service times the 1% multiplier. Essentially, we'll be replacing 20% of your final average salary or how much you make at that employer, guaranteed as a monthly benefit for the rest of your life. The power of the program is that an employer who has the ability to fund at a higher level, that means for you as one of their employees, you're going to receive greater benefits in retirement. So take a look at the L6, our greatest benefit program available for employers who also contribute to Social Security. The L6 is a 2% multiplier. A person with 20 years of service times the 2% is going to replace roughly 40% of their take-home pay or of their pay at the time that they're ready to retire. Now, again, truly it's of the final average salary, and we'll talk about how that's calculated shortly. But imagine if you are an individual who plans to work with your employer 30 years. At that L6 benefit program, 30 years times the 2%, you will be replacing 60% of your pre-retirement income with a guaranteed benefit monthly for the rest of your life. Simply by showing up and working today, you're not only earning wages for the work you do today, you're also earning a benefit to pay you when you're ready to retire. I have a question come through. How many hours annually, or is it monthly, do you need to work to be considered full-time? Great question. We will be covering that shortly. It is going to depend upon your employer's election, and there are 3 options they have to choose from. So hang tight with me, and we'll be talking about that again shortly. And loggers, not only are there life multipliers, but there are multipliers known as LT benefit programs. The LT represents a life and a temporary benefit. So you have your life base multiplier that is guaranteed to the retiree monthly for the rest of his or her lifetime. But at retirement, depending on the age elected by the employer, which currently the only one available is 65. But if your employer had a grandfather plan, they could have opted into a 62 temporary plan. It means that, for example, if I retire at the age of 60 and my employer has the LT 14 plan, it means that at 60, I am going to receive my life base of the 1.75%. But in addition to that, I receive a 0.25% temporary benefit to get me up to a 2% multiplier initially. That 2% is used to calculate my benefits until age 65. Under LT 14, age 65, when I turn 65 in retirement, my temporary portion discontinues. So that 0.25% temporary portion drops off. But remember, the life benefit is guaranteed still. So my benefit would continue at the 1.75% calculation monthly for the rest of my life. The LT programs, I will say they are not the most popular in our system, but bear in mind, every employer is able to tailor and select elections of their benefits that will best suit their workforce. So it's a matter of getting to know your employees. That being said, if you're a new hire, don't be afraid to have these conversations with HR, with your colleagues, and better understand what is needed for your future and for the future of the organization, because changes can be made. Now that we have a better idea about that first factor, let's talk about the second one in the equation. We call it how much you make. Realistically, it's known as your final average salary. Your final average salary is elected by the board as either a 36-month or 60-month range. And when I say elected by the board, I mean your employer's board or council. They're the individuals responsible for choosing the benefit elections for your loggers' benefits. Many have elected the 3-year final average salary range because it does result in a slightly greater benefit to retirees versus the 5-year or a 60-month salary final average salary range. It averages additional salaries, so therefore results oftentimes in a lesser benefit. When we go to calculate your final average salary, we're going to look at the last 10 years of your covered loggers employment. So for many of us, it's naturally going to be the last 3 or 5 years that fall within that range. But for some, it's going to be dated back because within the last 10 years of your covered employment, that's where we're looking for the elected 3 or 5 year range of greatest and consecutive wages. That's the kicker. It has to be greatest, but also consecutive wages. So again, like in the example on the screen, here she retired at the end of 2021. She had been earning her higher wages through and through. So for the 3-year average salary, we use the 2021, 20, and 2019 wages to calculate by adding those together, dividing by the 36 months. That's how you come up with the final average salary. Versus the 5-year range, you see, naturally, then we also had to include the 18 and 17 wages, which reduced the final average salary slightly. Keep in mind, final average salary, it is part of the formula. That is not your monthly benefit. So please do not get that confused. That is used to calculate your monthly benefit. But imagine in this example that she continued to work beyond 2021. Let's say she retired at the end of 2024, but for 3 years, she had moved across state and gone to an employer who had to pay her less. Maybe it was a smaller employer, or perhaps it was a position of less stress, duties, and responsibilities. So she took that cut in pay, but still remained within loggers. The good news for her, when we go to calculate her benefits, we're still going to revert back to her higher consecutive wages that had already occurred from 2019 to 21, if it's the 3-year range. So again, this is helpful for us as we grow in our careers, seeking opportunities to earn more. If you find yourself in positions of greater pay, it can be beneficial, especially when it's near your retirement date. Remember, within the last 10 years, it can be beneficial to stick it out for 3 or 5 years to help enhance your benefit in retirement. But if it is overly stressful, or if the position is needing to change and share duties with another hired employee, the good news is you can take a step down, earn lower wages, less stress, prepare for retirement. We will still revert back to those greater earnings that you've already locked in. So good things to come as you continue in your career. Just be mindful that as you earn more as you go, that will help to boost your future benefit as well. Here we go. Let's talk about how you grant coverage or earn coverage in loggers, what many like to call full-time employment versus part-time. We truly refer to it as a covered position. At the time your employer first joins loggers, so when they first joined our system, they had to identify at that time how many hours annually would qualify an individual who's hired for coverage. Your employer could elect for 1,000, 1,250, or 1,500 hours to deem an eligible employee for coverage through loggers. Meaning, if your employer had elected the 1,000 hours, you as an employee hired with the city or whomever, expected to work 1,000 hours or more each year, should be covered and reported to loggers. Regardless of if that 1,000 hours is deemed eligible for other benefits or not, it is deemed eligible for loggers coverage. Now, checking with your employer is very important because again, your employer has the option to choose between the 1,250 or the 1,500 hour election. If you're uncertain what your employer has, I always encourage talk with your HR or contact our office to learn what your board adopted upon joining loggers. Remember, if you're working at or above those annual hours, you should be reported to loggers. But check with HR because in some circumstances, you may have been hired without the intent of going over those hours. Now that you are working in it, maybe picking up full-time shifts or other shifts and working over those hours, having that conversation with them is important because if you expect to continue to work at that rate, you could and should be covered by loggers. Do you contribute to your loggers benefits? This too is going to be an employer election. So your employer, they get to elect whether or not you, the member, the employee, help to fund this future benefit through loggers. In many cases, employers will elect 0% employee contributions, meaning that your employer takes on the full responsibility of not only paying you today for the job that you do, but putting contributions towards loggers to pay you your future retirement benefit. However, in some cases, employers aren't able to fully support and fund higher benefit levels, or feel that it is important for their employees to have a little skin in the game and help fund this future retirement. So your employer could require that as an employee, you're expected and responsible for paying 2, 4, or 6% of your paycheck to help fund your future benefits from loggers. If your employer requires 2, 4, or 6%, it is required of all covered employees to have to contribute to loggers for their future benefits. So this is not an at-will election per employee. You have to pay this contribution towards loggers. Now, if you are brand new, hired to loggers for the first time, so meaning you've just started your career with the city or with the health department, with the fire department, the police department, and it's the first time you've ever worked for a loggers covered employer, check with them to see, do they require employee contributions? If yes, you will notice that within the first 6 months of your covered employment, you do not have to contribute. Okay, it's considered a 6-month free period or a grace period. That allows for you as a new hire to get acclimated to your position and really assess, is this the right place for you? Is this the career that's calling you? And if not, if you should leave or exit the workforce before you've reached 6 months, then you have no contributions with loggers. Okay. But as a new hire, be aware 6 months after you are hired, depending on your hire date, it might seem like 6.5 months or 7 months because it's a full 6 months of grace or a full free 6 months to you. Then you will see that loggers contributions are coming from your paycheck. Rest assured, if your employer requires you to pay 2, 4, or 6%, that is being paid towards loggers to fund your future guaranteed benefits. But the money that you're paying into loggers, it's being accounted for. Everything that you pay in, it's guaranteed to be returned to you. Our hope is that you do get vested and wish to retire from loggers, in which case we pay you a monthly benefit. On average, you're going to deplete your account balance in the first 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. Okay, it goes that quickly. But remember, this benefit is guaranteed to you, our retiree, monthly for the rest of your life. Okay, be mindful if you do leave employment and you do not wish to retire from loggers, you might have options such as taking a refund of your contributions or taking a lump sum payout, depending on how many years of service you have and how close you are to retirement eligibility. We have a great webinar that covers if you leave retirement that's available on our website to watch as well, in case you have questions about that. And then let's talk more about vesting. I've mentioned it several times and even the time frame. Vesting in the industry, in the financial industry, is simply when you qualify for future benefits. The vesting schedule for your Missouri loggers is 60 months or 5 years of service, meaning you as an individual, so long as you work 60 months with a loggers covered employer, you are vested in our system. You lock in and secure future benefits for all work that you do for a loggers covered employer. That 60 months does not have to be for one employer. Vesting is recognized system-wide. So for example, I could work 2 years at Cole County, and then here life happens and I'm going to be moving into the Kansas City area. I can go to work for Clay County so long as I work 3 more years with that loggers covered employer. I am vested in the system because I have my 2 years at Cole, my 3 years at Clay. Now I'm vested with 5 years. I'm guaranteed future benefits for the 2 years I worked at Cole County and the 3+ years I continue to work with Clay County. All you have to do is have 5 years of service. This is what I encourage all new hires to make their first goal. And if you're somebody who coaches or supervises, mentors, or onboards new employees, really helping to drive home the importance of vesting. Because if your employer is fully funding this benefit and you should terminate before you're ever vested and never return to loggers, well, thank you for your service, but unfortunately, you aren't entitled to any benefits. Okay. Getting vested will guarantee that you're not leaving this benefit on the table. Again, it only requires 60 months or 5 years of service. 2, there are options. If you do have to leave loggers covered employment, you have the ability to come back. If you're not vested yet, you have 10 years. So imagine here I worked for 2 years. If I should take off to stay home with a child while they're young, so long as I return within 10 years, I can resume my membership and still would only need 3 years of service to be vested and qualify for future benefits. Lots of opportunities in our system. So as a new hire, as an individual working through your career, as life happens, again, we work for you. Please don't hesitate to call our office and talk to us about how this impacts your future benefits or what options and opportunities you have with regards to your loggers membership. And then things to think about in your future is retirement eligibility. Through loggers, we're going to ask or look at what type of employee are you classified as. We have 4 departments that employers can choose in our system. The first is general, which is the majority of our members. The second is police. That department is intended for post-certified individuals serving in law enforcement. The third is firefighters. That department is intended for individuals working as a firefighter. And then the 4th division, or department rather, is known as public safety. Public safety is an optional one that employers can elect to cover jailers, telecommunicators, EMT personnel under a age 55 retirement. Otherwise, if your employer does not elect and adopt a public safety department, jailers, telecommunicators, EMT personnel, they are considered general employees, okay? Once you know what type of employee you are, let's talk about age eligibility. Remember, you first have to be vested. So the first goal is to lock in 5 years of service in our system. You know you're guaranteed a future benefit. Next, you have to either continue to work or wait until your age qualifies you to take benefits from our system. Age eligibility is recognized system-wide. For general employees, you can receive normal retirement, which is simply full benefits, at the age of 60. So long as you have 5 years of service and are 60 years of age, you qualify for that pure formula. The multiplier times your final average salary times your years of service, your benefit could be payable to you upon application. For police, fire, and deemed public safety personnel, your normal retirement age is age 55. Given the nature and the duties, the stress of those positions, you are entitled to earlier retirement with full benefits. So 5 years younger than your colleagues who are general employees. In our system, we do allow under age eligibility for members to retire up to 5 years younger. So if you're a general employee, technically you can retire and start to receive benefits from our system so long as you're vested with 5 years at the age of 55. For police, fire, and deemed public safety personnel, technically you can retire at the age of 50, start receiving benefits. But it is considered early retirement, age-reduced benefits. So not only do we calculate your formula using those same factors, we then add an age reduction. And that reduction is 0.5% for every month younger you are than your regular retirement age. So if I'm a general employee retiring at 55, I take a 30% reduction because it's 0.5% for each month younger, 6% for each year. So at 55, I'd be calculating my benefit, reduce it by 30%. That's what I would be eligible to receive monthly for the rest of my life at 55. For some, we're going to see that reduction. We're going to think, no way, I can't afford to retire and live off that alone. And realistically, at 55, I still have a lot of life ahead of me for working years and 10 years before Medicare eligibility. So I can't even afford health insurance. That's okay. You can continue to work. It can be motivation to continue to work until 60 or beyond. But others are going to see that eligibility and say, hey, you know what? I can work this position until I'm 55. In the meantime, I can work my side business. And when I turn 55, I'm going to go ahead and take that reduced benefit and then place my focus on growing my business and making that my full-time job. Or if life is calling me out of state and I have to work elsewhere, I can retire my benefits from loggers, get this benefit, even if it's reduced, at least I'm drawing it sooner, and I can go work elsewhere. So loads of opportunities when it comes to eligibility and when you can receive your benefits. Remember, that is age eligibility. Now, there is another bullet point there at the bottom called Rule of 80. Rule of 80 is not recognized system-wide. It is an individual employer's personal election. So your employer may or may not have Rule of 80 eligibility. Please check with them or check our website or call our office to learn if your employer has adopted Rule of 80. The Rule of 80 is an added eligibility. So even if your employer does have Rule of 80, it doesn't mean that you have to meet the Rule of 80, okay? But Rule of 80 means that you as an individual, when your age plus your years of service, when added together, totals 80 or greater, regardless of how young you are, you can retire with normal benefits. Imagine this, being a 20-year-old hired with Cole County, working 30 years. Now at the age of 50 with 30 years of service, I have met the Rule of 80. So my 50 years of age plus my 30 years of service, I'm at that 80 points. With Rule of 80 eligibility, it means I could retire with full benefits. So that pure formula, there's no age reduction at the age of 50 and start to receive monthly benefits from 50 for the rest of my life. If Cole County has the L6 benefit program, the 2%, remember that's 2% times my years of service. That's 60% of my pay guaranteed to me monthly for the rest of my life, starting at 50. Being 50 years of age, I can go and work another career while drawing this benefit. So many times people can retire and feel like they're even earning more, and not just feel it, but actually be doing so. Loads of opportunities. Rule of 80, remember, it's not a guarantee. Check with your employer to see if they have it or not. Something else to be mindful of, it may or may not be beneficial to you. If you're a general employee who was hired at or after the age of 40, Rule of 80 is of no benefit. You will achieve age 60 age eligibility before you meet the Rule of 80. For police, fire, and deemed public safety personnel, if you were hired at or after the age of 30, Rule of 80 is of no benefit to you because you will achieve age eligibility at the age of 55 for normal retirement first. So Rule of 80 has no impact to how much you'll receive in retirement, but rather when you can start to receive your full benefits, okay? And in our system, it's important to note there is no service cap or limit to how long you can work through a loggers covered employer. Simply because you get to age eligibility or you meet Rule of 80, that simply means that you've achieved the greatest benefit factor or multiplier from your employer. Remember those other two factors, your years of service and how much you make? If you wish to continue to work beyond that, you're increasing your service. Plus, if you're earning more as you go, you're boosting your final average salary, which will result in a better benefit in retirement. So just because you meet eligibility doesn't mean you have to retire, because when we can retire relies on so much more personally, professionally, financially, and so much more. Very good. Not seeing any other questions come through at this time. Let's talk a little bit more about pre-retirement replacement income. We saw an example of this earlier when we talked about the multipliers, but I want to help you again visualize it. In retirement, financial experts recommend that as individuals, we aim to replace 70 to 90% of our pre-retirement income, meaning what I'm earning before I go to retire, I should expect for my loggers, my Social Security, my personal savings to be able to replace 70 to 90% of what I had been making. So to take a look at what your loggers will replace alone, a quick calculation can help you understand it. Know what your multiplier is. In the example on the screen, this employer has opted for the L7 benefit program. So that's the 1.5% for this individual. And then think about how long do you plan to work for your employer? In this case, he's looking at working 25 years. So by working 25 years with the employer at an L7, we take the 1.5% times his 25 years. That is 37.5%. We will be replacing roughly 37.5% of his pre-retirement income. Taking a look at 30 years of service, so if he wishes to work 5 more years with the L7 benefit program, his loggers benefit alone, so just loggers, will be replacing nearly 45% of his pre-retirement income. That's huge when you think about the big picture. Taking a look here on the screen, remember, in retirement, financial experts recommend that you replace 70 to 90. So if we do the middle of the road, replacing 80%, there in the green represents your pre-retirement income. That dashed line is the 80% that you're hoping to achieve. Well, if you've worked for an employer for 25 years and they have the L6 benefit program, so that's the 2% multiplier, 2% times the 25 years results in loggers benefit alone replacing nearly 50% of your pre-retirement pay. So that's that dark blue. Now 30% additional needs to be covered. Well, think about your other sources in retirement. Social Security. Social Security right now, if you contribute to it, it claims to replace roughly 35 to 40% of pre-retirement income. So there alone, you could be set with Social Security and your loggers. Now, Social Security is going to be based upon your earnings and your working career. So it doesn't always replace 35 to 40%. To get an idea of what your other income is, go to that administration. You can go to ssa.gov and register for a My Social Security account. There, you can see what your anticipated benefit is going to be from Social Security, so you can compare and see what you'll have in total with loggers and Social Security. For many of us, there's still going to be a bit of a gap because maybe I'm not expected to work 25 years at an employer with the L6. Maybe I'm working 20 years at the L6. So it's going to replace roughly 40%. And my Social Security is expected to replace 30%. So now I'm expected to earn about 70%, but in retirement, I still have a mortgage to pay and I want to travel some. So I know I'm going to need a little bit more, 80 to 85%. That's why it can be important to have personal savings in addition to loggers and Social Security, okay? Whether that is through a defined contribution plan, business, or other form of savings. Some people rely on inheritance if you're fortunate, okay? Things of that nature. Other things that come with your membership in loggers, while we were intended with retirement in mind, we provide added security for the here and now in the form of disability and survivor benefits. This is in case the unthinkable happens, such as an injury or illness that deems you incapable of performing your duties. You could apply and see if you qualify for disability retirement from our system. If approved, you would start receiving a monthly benefit for the rest of your life or as long as the disability sustains. If death occurs, this is where survivor benefits could be payable on your behalf to a surviving spouse, a qualified surviving spouse. If there is not a qualified surviving spouse, benefits could be payable to dependent children. Dependent children in our system are those who are under the age of 18 or as old as 23, so long as they are unmarried and enrolled in school full-time. When we go to calculate your benefits, we will look at the nature of the injury, illness, or death. If it is deemed non-duty, you must be vested in our system to even be considered for disability or survivor benefits. If you have 4 years of service, then I'm sorry, unfortunately, no benefits would be payable under disability or survivor benefits. The exception to that is if you have contributed funds to help fund your future benefit from from loggers, rest assured, everything you've ever paid in, it's guaranteed to be returned, okay, as a refund to you or to your beneficiary. If it's a non-duty related disability or death though, and you are vested, we're going to calculate your benefits using the service you have physically earned in our system. So imagine being 40 years of age with 10 years of service under my belt. If I were to be injured in an accident going to a child's ball game, it's considered non-duty. They will use the 10 years of service times my final average salary times the multiplier to calculate my disability benefit. If approved, that's what I would expect to receive monthly for the rest of my life, okay? If it is a death, they will calculate using the 10 years of service. And then if there is a qualified surviving spouse, so this is a spouse of at least 2 years, then 60% of my calculated benefit continues to him monthly for the rest of his life. If I don't have a qualified spouse, they will look to see if there are dependent children and divide that 60% evenly to each child until they age out. If the nature of the disability or death is deemed duty related, this is where there is a difference in your calculation. Loggers will add service to your account as if you work until age 60. So again, in that example, being 40 years of age with 10 years of service behind me, if disability or death, or excuse me, if a disability occurs while en route to travel to present for work, Loggers is going to add 20 years of service to my 10 years. Because I'm 40, they'll add 20 years as though I worked until age 60. So now I have 30 years of service times my final average salary times my multiplier. That would be payable to me as a disability retiree if approved. If death had occurred, then that same formula using the 30 years of service, 60% of that benefit would continue to a qualified surviving spouse. If it is duty related, qualifying spouse can be any spouse for any length of time, but it has to be a legal spouse. If no surviving spouse, then 60% of my benefit would be payable to dependent children until they age out. Again, if no surviving spouse, no dependent children, they will look to see if I ever made contributions to loggers. If so, my account balance would be payable to my named beneficiary. But if I never had to make contributions to help fund this benefit, then no further benefits payable. So again, loggers does provide some added coverage for the here and now, but not necessarily everything that you may need for your loved ones. So be mindful of that. I hope this does not apply to anybody joining me today. We don't want you to have disability retirement. This isn't to encourage you to go out and become disabled. It's not worth it. And certainly no survivor benefits are preferred. We hope that you live long and healthy, get to retire, and enjoy a prosperous retirement. If you have questions about this though, please never hesitate to reach out to our office. Also, that being said, it's always important to update your beneficiaries anytime there's a change in life status, be it marriage, divorce, birth, or adoption of a child. Be sure to update beneficiaries on all financial records that you have. All right. And then as you continue thinking about your future and planning, there are tools available to you. Just like I mentioned earlier, through Social Security, you can create a My SSA account. Well, Loggers provides you with a member portal known as My Loggers. If you go to our website, mologgers.org, down in the bottom right, you will see the opportunity to enroll or register for your personal My Loggers account. With access to My Loggers, you have the ability immediately to update your contact information, be it address, phone number, email. You can update those beneficiaries conveniently online. So you can change your beneficiary from your parents to your spouse if you get married, or update it with your children, things of that nature. Just in case, it's always good to have beneficiaries up to date. Furthermore, you'll have access to a benefit estimator. So I've talked about and given you the formula on how to calculate your benefits, but you can use the tool known as the benefit estimator to quickly run that for you. It's systematically automated to calculate out what your age will be, what your service would be. The only thing that it won't necessarily do is calculate out your future income unless you select for it to do so. So just things to be mindful of. It's a great tool though to go out and play with essentially. If you're brand new hired to our system, you may go and try to enroll for My Loggers and not have access just yet because you aren't being reported necessarily. You're still under that grace period. So please allow up to 6 months of employment before you gain full access to My Loggers. But hey, go ahead and try. It can't hurt. Just know that if you get an error, it's likely because you're brand new hire to our system. We don't have your information readily available yet to create a My Loggers account. Through My Loggers too, you'll be able to access your member annual statement. This is a paper document that we will also physically mail to you once a year. It looks at what your account experience has been as of December 31st of every year. And so if you've just gained employment, you won't expect to receive one this March, but next March, you would expect to receive a member annual statement that shows what happened throughout the year of 2022, including how much service you've earned, when you'll be eligible for retirement, and what your anticipated benefits would be if you continue to earn more as you go. So it's a wonderful tool to keep with your financial records and watch it grow over the years. And two, it's a good reminder that you have Missouri Loggers. So if ever life takes you away and you leave working for a loggers employer, if you're vested in our system, you are still guaranteed benefits. So always remember to come back and apply for retirement when you're eligible. Those member annual statements are a good reminder of that. And then recognizing the value. So I've said it multiple times throughout today, your employer, when they joined Loggers, they joined a support group and a connection and network of over 840 other employers. Loggers has grown to over 36,000 retirees, 25,000 full-time active members, plus several that are inactive but vested in our system, and beneficiaries. So it continues to grow in size, and it's like-minded individuals throughout the state of Missouri who have come together to receive and support and get this secured benefit in retirement. Taking a look at the example on the screen, let's take a look at the monetary value of it. Here, the individual is a 20-year employee who earns $2,116 monthly in retirement. And that is the average benefit for a 20-year employee from Loggers. Granted, it does depend on how much you earn in your 20-year career, as well as what the multiplier is from your employer. But on average, somebody working 20 years in Loggers, their benefit is roughly $2,000. That's amazing. When you think that's $2,000 monthly for the rest of my life, that's 24 grand that you're not actively having to work for as a retiree. Okay. You're getting it now just by showing up to work today. So that employee or that retiree, after living 20 years into retirement alone, Loggers will have paid them out over $500,000, $507,840. That is straight math. In reality, when you're a retiree from our system, our board prides itself on ensuring that your benefit keeps up with cost of living. Meaning if prices go up on cost of goods, be it gas, groceries, things of that nature, The board reviews the consumer price index. And when you're a retiree, they approve cost of living adjustments or increases to your monthly benefit. Once your benefit goes up in retirement because of COLAs, it never goes down. So here, that's straight math, but realistically, loggers will have paid this person out even more. Living 30 years into retirement, loggers will have paid a benefit of $761,760. Remember, your loggers does not deplete. It grows in value. The longer you live, you continue to receive this monthly for the rest of your life. On average, we're projected to live at least a third of our lives in retirement. So let's focus on that 20-year number. The 507,000, nearly $500,000. Imagine if you did not have loggers and you yourself are expected to save $500,000 by time you're 60 years of age, so that you have an account balance to take these distributions from. Well, using a calculator on bankrate.com, we plugged in some variables. Here, this individual is currently 35 years of age, earning $38,000. Okay. They're expected to receive 2% increases over time, and they want to retire at the age of 60. By contributing 18% of their current pay, so 18% of that 38,000 at the age of 35, but continuing to contribute 18% every paycheck thereafter, that's assuming a 7.25% return on investments. That this member will have amassed an account balance over $500,000. So in the example, it's 556,000 that they would have amassed. But that requires that us as individuals would have to put aside 18% of every pay. Can you imagine putting aside 18% of your current paycheck towards retirement alone? That's a hefty requirement or a hefty responsibility. Many of us aren't disciplined to do so. And even if we are, having access to it, many Americans will take distributions, and that can create turmoil for your future retirement account. And so again, by not having loggers, imagine having to save and have this retirement benefit for yourself in the future. That is the value that your employer puts in you. They're paying you wages today for the work you do, but they're also putting contributions towards loggers, and they've joined loggers to provide you with a guaranteed benefit for your future for the work that you do for them. Loads of opportunities in our system. Thank you for joining me today. This does bring me to the end of our presentation. If you have questions, please type those into the chat or Q&A feature or raise your hand. I'll be happy to unmute you. Again, though, thank you for the work you're doing. Welcome aboard. If you're brand new to loggers, don't hesitate to reach out. You can call us, email us. Our office is located in Jefferson City. You're welcome to visit us if you're in the area. Otherwise, we travel the state. We have several pre-retirement seminars, which if you're a new hire, you won't want to attend a pre-retirement seminar just yet, but we have a number of other webinars. And always be in the know or watch for emails from your employer, because many employers invite us on site to host specific lunch breaks for new hires or pre-retirement seminars for their employees. So if we're on site, come see us, come pay us a visit and learn more about your loggers benefits. If you prefer to listen and learn more, you can always go to our website, mologgers.org. You'll see events, webinars, and we have recorded webinars here available to you at any time, so you can watch them at your convenience. I apologize, they're not loading right now, but you see there's lots of topics that you may be interested in, including disability survivor benefits, when you leave, if you should separate or exit loggers covered employment, what your options are. Our website too is a wonderful resource. Remember, from the first homepage, here you can go and enroll for a My Loggers account. You can even find publications, including a digital copy of the member handbook, which is a wealth of information about the whole system. If you help report payroll, the administrative handbook is a great tool for you. And as you continue to grow in your career and in life, if you're exploring career opportunities, or if you wish to know what elections your employer has, go to this member employer listing. So here again, if you missed that, I hovered over members down to a member employer listing. It'll bring you to this page. You can see covered employers throughout the state of Missouri who have membership within loggers and what their elected benefits are. So again, L6 is the 2%, final average salary of a 3, no rule of 80 in this case. They did not adopt public safety, so their jailers, telecommunicators, EMT personnel would be considered general employees. How many members that they have roughly? This gets updated about quarterly, so it's not up to date with the latest information, but about quarterly it gets re-updated. And it shows you the county and other information, so you can search by area or by your employer. It's a great tool to go back and reference as well. Thank you again for being here today. Seeing no questions come through, I'll stay on the webinar for another moment or so. In case something does come through, you're welcome to type it into the chat or that Q&A feature. Otherwise, at 3:03, I'll conclude today's presentation. Thanks again. Stay safe and happy holidays to you all.